Russian President Vladimir Putin has cited Ukraine's pursuit of NATO membership as a justification for this unprovoked war. Ukraine is not and has never been a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's kind of getting membership in NATO is kind of like a long, multi-level job interview. There are several steps and certain requirements a country's got to meet in order to join the alliance. NATO's got an open-door policy, but getting through that door can take several years. In some cases, the treaty states that NATO membership is open to, quote, any European state in a position to further the principles of this treaty and to contribute to the security of the North Atlantic area. Now, there are just a handful of non-European countries in NATO, including the United States and Canada and Turkey, half of which is in Asia. Turkey, by the way, has the largest military within NATO behind the United States. According to the NATO website, nations are expected to respect the values of the North Atlantic Treaty and to meet those political, economic, and military standards, which include upholding a functional democratic political system based on a market economy, the fair treatment of minority populations, a commitment to resolve conflicts peacefully, an ability and willingness to make a military contribution to NATO operations, and a commitment to demonstrate civic military relations and institutions. The first step toward joining NATO is securing the invite to begin an intensified dialogue with the alliance about what aspirations and related reforms a country is prepared to undertake. If the aspiring country makes it past that step, it's invited to join the Membership Action Plan of NATO, which is a program that helps nations prepare for possible future NATO membership. But participation in the action plan doesn't guarantee entry into NATO, because every existing member nation, there are 30 now, must agree to accept the new membership. The treaty says any decision on enlargement must be made by unanimous agreement. The NATO treaty also states that every sovereign nation has the right to choose its own security arrangement. So NATO membership is not imposed on countries and allies, and they have the right to leave should they wish to. No nation has ever opted out of NATO. And as for Ukraine, NATO welcomed its bid for membership in 2008. The alliance pledged that Ukraine would eventually become a member, but definitive timelines were never worked out. Public Western support for Ukraine's membership has grown over the years, but some NATO members remain worried about the ongoing unrest and corruption in the country, dating back far earlier than this year, and some countries have been concerned about the consequences of threats from Russia about NATO expansion. Technically, Ukraine shouldn't need to be in NATO to have security assurances from certain Western countries. Back in 1994, Ukraine, Russia, the U.S., and the U.K. signed something called the Budapest Memorandum. Ukraine agreed to relinquish its nuclear arsenal, which was the world's third largest at the time, in exchange for security assurances from the United States and the United Kingdom. All four countries agreed to, quote, respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of Ukraine and to refrain from the threat or use of force against the country. Putin's invasion of Ukraine is a direct violation of that Budapest Memorandum.